Hey, let's just get started. I'm sure we'll have other people join us as they can, hopefully. And but welcome everybody. Thank you for attending this Township Tuesday, the first of 2023. I'm Jeff Krieger, the executive director of MAT, and with me I also have Steve Fensky, Graham Berg, Moberg, and I think Lori is going to be joining us here soon for the trainers, represent them. So any questions that you have for any of us, if you want, you can raise your hand. Just speak up, unmute yourself, or you can put it into the chat, and then we can answer it that way for you as well. I just have a few announcements that I want to go over. Most of these are just reminders. First and foremost, we do have Township Day at the Capitol. That's going to be on February 1st and February 2nd this year. This is taking the place of the old LNR. The spring LNR. We no longer are calling that. This is open to all township officers. We're hoping to get a huge group to go this year. And we just want to flood the Capitol with people that are talking about township issues, whether it be annexation, whether it be transportation funding, weeds, pill payments, those type of things. If those are of a concern for you, we need you to show up. We need you to help lobby on your own behalf and on behalf of your fellow townships, just so we can hopefully make a big push on that this year. Also, don't forget about, and you do need to register for that as well. And so please go to our website. You'll find all the information about that there. Township Day, our annual meeting is going to be March 14th on a Tuesday, obviously. And so please, I'm sure that most of you are aware of that. And but if not, if some of you are new, I just wanted to throw that out to you as well. Spring short courses are going to be starting the Monday after that, starting on March 20th for 3 straight weeks. 15 different locations coming to a location near you, hopefully. And but we're essentially going to be in a caravan. The entire MAT office is going remote, or most of us anyways, and going to be presenting and educating, training, and everything that we can do for your benefit. So please go onto our website again, register, and get yourself signed up for that. We'd love to see you there. This is essentially our Super Bowl of the year. This is where we get to see most of you officers. And this is also although I've been ED now for almost 2 years, this will be my first time that I've actually gone on the short course trip. And so I'm really looking forward to that. One thing also, we are going to be looking for testifiers. Those brave souls who are willing to come to the Capitol and come to a Senate or House hearing and speak to those House legislators or Senate legislators about the things that we're fighting for on your behalf, whether it be annexation, whether it be transportation funding. Hopefully we get a hearing on pill payments, since we're going after that as well. But we'd like to get at least a list of names of people who are going to have compelling stories to be able to share with these legislators. I know one thing when I spoke with, and I think I mentioned this on the last Township Tuesday, is that I had a conversation with Frank Hornstein. He's the transportation chair of the House. And he had indicated to me that basically give us a game plan as far as how to get transportation dollars. He'd like to have testifiers there, officers like you, discussing what you plan on doing with those dollars. What are the needs? He's looking for an ROI, return on investment. What's going to be happening with those investment dollars if the state gives those additional dollars to the townships? And so we are going to be looking for those people who are willing to testify and give those type of testimonials. But along with that, we'd like to have some pictures. Right now, I'm sitting in my home in Lakeville because I didn't want to trust the roads, and it's snowing quite well. So today would not be a good day to take pictures of roads. But as soon as we get hopefully a January thaw, and we can get some pictures out there of our worst roads, we need to have those pictures in here. I know I talked about that last August at our district meetings, and asked about that. I think I got 3 pictures from the officers that who are in attendance. So we do need to have more of those. Unless we're going to be a squeaky wheel, we are not going to get any grease, and that grease means funding. So please do what you can on any of these things. If you have any questions, you shoot me an email, give me a call. Love to talk to you about this. Also want to just bring up a quick note. I'll be talking about this more probably in the next couple of weeks. I know I've talked to a few people and made some of you aware that we are having some issues with a couple of townships up in the north. And this has been very distressing just because they are township officers. But there's only a few, and I want to stress that there are only a few, and they just happen to speak very loudly and have been causing quite a bit of chaos and quite honestly a pain in the butt for the people in the office, and use up a lot of our resources. But I want you to know that there's a lot of lies, innuendos, mischaracterizations, misstatements, however you want to frame it, and for that discussion about things that are going on with Matt and so forth. But I want to assure you that that these things are lies. We've talked to these people. We've tried to figure out what their overall agenda is. And what they're trying to accomplish with all this. And I call it that they're spreading a gospel of hate. And it's unfortunate, especially because it is coming from inside our organization. And but the board will be having a special meeting this week to discuss it with these people and hopefully come to some type of resolution. Like I said, I'll be discussing that in 2 weeks at our next Township Tuesday. You can guarantee that. So that's all I have for today. And if you have something, I'll pass it on to you.
Hey, everybody. Well, I do, but I know that Lori was asked to talk about something, and Graham has something as well. Before I jump to that, those who have done our spring short courses, be aware that some of the location dates have changed a little bit. It's not the same southern as only the first week. I think the first and second week are a little different than you may have had in the past. So, for example, if you were Granite Falls on the first week, you're not anymore. Please pay careful attention to that schedule so that you make sure you get to the right event. Of course, you can go to any of the events. You do not have to go to the one nearest you. It's just for convenience, but take a look at that schedule. So, Lori, if you are ready, I will have you address the question you received.
Good morning. Happy New Year, everyone. I was asked this morning just to go over a little bit on the Board of Audit and the annual meeting. I can get more in depth with a little more time. So I'll get more in depth at the next Township Tuesday one. But this time I'm going to talk about what do you need to have for your Board of Audit. Now, this is not the state auditors report. This is your Board of Audit with your Township board members. Clerks and treasurers, you should both have a receipt register for the year, listing all of your receipts, 2 separate copies. Also your disbursements or the checks you wrote for the entire year, both the clerk and the treasurer. A cash control statement for the year. What that's going to show is your bank balance. So you'll both want to print out a cash control statement or a cash balance statement, and also have your end of the year check from your bank, your bank statement, so that the board can look at that cash control statement and that ending balance, and also your bank statement, and look at those and make sure that those match. Both the clerk and treasurer and the bank statement match with the bank statement. Also, you're going to want to have a Schedule 1. What the Schedule 1 from CTAS shows is your total township worth, and that includes your investments, any indebtedness you may have. That's something that supervisors, you should be looking at. You should be looking at that every month, as a matter of fact. Supervisors, you should be looking at the cash control statement, comparing it to the bank statement every month to make sure that they're balancing. If they're not balancing, make sure that they can tell you why. A lot of times it's something that maybe a trainer is working with them on. I'm trying to fix something for them, and they'll be able to tell you. But and also for your Board of Audit, you're going to want your actual pre-numbered receipts for your deposits. And you're also going to want your claims, your actual claims, if you can. Each supervisor should be picking one of each and checking both your receipts registers for both of you, and also your disbursement registers to make sure those checks are in both of your books and they're correct. That's just kind of an overview of what you'll want to get prepared. You need to do your Board of Audit at least a week before the annual meeting. So you'll need to do that before the 1st of March or the 7th of March, whatever. Your Board of Audit can be part of your regular meeting or it can be a special meeting. My township, we do our Board of Audit right before our regularly scheduled board meeting in February. So the treasurer and I will get together after this next board meeting in January. We'll get together and we actually go through every single receipt for the year, every single disbursement for the year. We check to make sure we both have the same fund, the same account, the same amount, the same check number, the same receipt number. So that's just to make sure that they're all in there. There's a question, and if there's if there's something that's not quite right, then make sure you get those changes done before the board meeting. Darla has a question. If you have it during a regular meeting, do you need to post and publish? I don't think so, Steve. I know our Board of Audit, we put with our regularly scheduled meeting list at the beginning of the year. But if you have it as part of your regular meeting, do you need to post it or publish it? I don't think so.
I'm checking right now on this. I don't think of special publication. The open meeting law would be the same rule. If it's on your regular meeting schedule, no additional notices published or posted, you just put it up. It's often done as part of a regular meeting or right after the regular meeting, but I'm going to just check in the statute.
Okay. So that's kind of the Board of Audit in a nutshell, the basics. Again, if anybody has any questions, thanks, Darla. You rock too. Anybody has any questions, please reach out to one of the trainers. Just to let everybody on the call here know, Petra is not able to be a trainer with Mac anymore. She has retired. So if you have her information, if you could just transfer that over to another one of our trainers, I'm sure Petra will appreciate that. If anybody has any questions, again, reach out. I will be on this call for the duration. So any questions you have.
And
Do you have a form for the audit? Is it on the MAT website? I think it is. I will look and make sure it is on the MAT website. If it isn't, we'll make sure it gets on there.
The statute, it's in 366. It does not say anything about posting or publishing special notices of the Board of Audit meeting. It does say that once it's completed, it has to be posted before the annual meeting.
Yes.
So when it's complete, and it's actually, I believe, a treasurer duty.
Yep.
The
Yep,
clerk,
it
I'm
is.
sorry, the clerk shall post a copy of the report. So,
Yep.
but other than that, no special meeting, just follow the open meeting law for that one.
Correct. Yep.
All right, Laura, is that all you had?
Yep, that's all I have. Again, if
Right.
anybody has any questions, please reach out.
Okay, point out, Leslie put registration links in the chat for Township Day at the Capitol, and then new officer training. New officer training is for clerks and treasurers. It's not that supervisors could not attend, but this is different than the new officer training at the annual, at the spring short courses. So if you're a brand new officer, or you have brand new officers, whether they're clerk, treasurer, supervisor, please have them go to the spring short course, new training. If they're clerks and treasurers, they may also go for more specific training at our office here with Lori, and that's in the link. So the more specific one, just clerks and treasurers, is in the link on here. And I'm going to get us to change the name so it's a little more clear that it's new clerk treasurer training, to make sure there's no confusion there. All right, Graham has some stuff as well. Graham, you ready?
I am indeed. All right. Morning, everyone. Hope everybody had a happy new year. Let me go ahead and share my screen here, and then we will get started. All right. So this morning I'm going to be talking about emergency services and specifically mechanisms town can use to offset, potential expenses here. Whoops. Definitely did not mean to. All right, there we go. Back to mouse. Oops. Okay. Now, Emergency services, of course, can get pretty spendy, and by their nature, we are talking about a system of we're talking about things that are difficult to plan for. So the legislature has provided us with two different mechanisms in order to offset the costs of this. And I would say one is the older is more or less superseded at this point. But we're going to be covering both of them, at least in brief, this morning. The older one comes from Minnesota Statute 365.181. That provision is on your screen now. Basically, it provides that if the tax raised for fire protection does not cover the service, then the town board can levy an assessment for fire service. That assessment must be levied on each real estate parcel that required fire service during the year. Must not be more than the cost of service. And then there are certain procedural protections for the landowners that get built into this. 10 days mailed notice, board meeting has to have a hearing. But of course, fires are not the only thing that can blow up a township's budget. What if you're talking about rescue? What if you're talking about an ambulance? What if you're talking about something of that nature? Well, in 1997, the legislature updated, in my view, these powers, and they gave us a new statute, 366.011, which much more clearly provides for the range of services provided by a modern fire department. So that one specifically gives us the authority to, quote, impose a reasonable service charge for emergency services, including fire, rescue, medical, and related services provided by the town or contracted for by the town. So some of the notable features of this one, it doesn't require a vote of the electors. Now, obviously, as a matter of good government or as a matter of politics, getting permission from the electors to do this is not the worst thing in the world. It doesn't hurt at all. It's just not strictly speaking needed. Of course, as we were saying above, the coverage is broader. It very clearly provides for medical and rescue instead of specifically relating to fire. And it doesn't require the notice or hearing in order to use, or at least it doesn't impose the specific requirements of 365.181. That might be a more precise way to say it. So that's kind of why we tend to take the view that the older statute is simply superseded at this point. Nevertheless, you will from time to time run into examples of other towns drawing their language from the older statute. So if you see that, don't get confused. It's not wrong. It's just that there's this other tool out there that is broader and frankly more useful in my view. So we do recommend that townships, if you look in your books and you see that you guys are citing to 181, we'd recommend the update to 0.011 because that is just broader. It's a little bit more secure. So in terms of recommendations, if you are considering using this power, if you're considering updating whatever system you had in place, here we go. So this is a situation in which a township attorney is a good idea. We tend to recommend at a minimum that the board should have any proposed forms, any sample letters, procedures reviewed by an attorney just to make sure that they're okay, to make sure that you're actually going to do what it is that you think you do or you're doing, and actually, maximize your chance to get reimbursed for all the money that you're spending on this sort of stuff. You're going to want to be specific about what services that you want to charge for. You're going to want to you're going to want to pay attention to 366.011's requirement with regards to the amount. Now, it says specifically the word reasonable. It requires that the cost imposed be, quote, reasonable, which we tend to think means that the charge should accurately reflect the actual cost of providing the service. So if you want to do this, we recommend developing findings about the costs involved in providing the service. And by the way, that isn't just stuff like, hey, we're paying firefighters wages here. It can include stuff like administrative costs. It can include stuff like equipment costs. It can include stuff like, fuel. Just be careful, make a thorough record about what it is that you think you're paying and why you think you're paying it. And then when everything is ready, you sort of reduce it to writing, pass it as an ordinance. In terms of the stuff that we think should be in that ordinance, I think pretty strongly we recommend that there be a billing process written into the ordinance itself. And some of the details that I think it's important to include that you will sometimes see townships miss is making sure that the fire department is recording the name and address of the person receiving the service and forwarding that information to the town in a timely manner. Now, this stuff can, of course, get a little bit complicated, but if you are in talks to renew a contract with whoever provides your fire protection, you might consider making that a requirement of getting paid. If you intend to recoup costs through this mechanism, put it on them to make sure that they get you the information in a timely fashion and accurately, and put that in the contract. Then one of the other biggies here is we take the view that the board should designate someone to handle this process and then provide forms for that person to make it easy. Now, this isn't necessarily something that you can just fob off on the clerk or the treasurer, but of course they can agree to the additional duties if they want to do it. But having somebody designated in your ordinance is a good way to make sure that there's a specific person that can handle this and can do it in a timely fashion. And I think that just makes everything quite a bit easier for everyone. I see I am missing some chats here. All right. Our fire department is run by the city and we pay them yearly. Do these statutes concern our township? Yes. So if you if you're contracting for fire protection, that is specifically permitted. You are specifically permitted to levy a charge for contracted for fire protection. So because it's a contract, you have a much cleaner, I think, idea of what exactly it costs on a per call basis. But the statute does permit you to recoup costs, even if you are dealing with even if you're contracting for protection with somebody else. Okay, when there's an unpaid fire call for a township resident and the city turns it over to the township pays the city and collects via these statutes. Yeah, you certainly can do that. Actually, we were just about to get to the collection mechanism here in 366.011 and 366.012. Do you have a link yet for the WC audit? I received a paper copy, but should I disregard this? And we no longer need to provide a list of contractors that did work for the township during the year, or the contractor's certificate of insurance. Right. I think that one looks like a question for Lori, really. But let's just keep trucking along here. Okay. So 366.011 provides arguably two mechanisms by which a township can proceed if the service charge that they are levying does not get paid. So the standard is if the service charge remains unpaid after 30 days after a notice of delinquency, then the town can use any lawful means allowed to a private party for the collection of an unsecured debt, and or the town may also use the authority of section 366.012 to collect on that unpaid service charge. Now, that provision is here. You're seeing a bit of a selection from it right now on your screen here. And what that one, whoops. Let's see. There we go. All right. So what that one provides for is if a township government is authorized to impose a service charge, the town board can certify to the county auditor in which the recipient of services owns real property on or before October 15th, that service charge, which shall then be collected together with the property taxes levied against the property. Now, there are some additional requirements there. You'll see the little ellipses. A charge may be certified only if on or before September 15, the town has given written notice to the property owner of its intention to proceed that way. Now, there are, of course, more complications to this. So if you have any specific questions related to anything like this, please do not hesitate to shoot us an email, give us a call, anything of that nature. But yeah, so that was a bit of a short one here. Does anybody have any questions about fire service charges?
Great, Graham. Thank you very much for that. I appreciate that. Yeah, if anybody does come up with any questions for Graham, please feel free to put that in the chat. I see that Lori's been handling the questions on workers' comp in the chat there. Appreciate that, Lori.
Yeah, there's a couple
Yeah.
more that I just want everybody to hear.
Please.
Ron had a question. If we need to move one of our regular meetings, do we just post a new date following the open meeting rules? Yes, Ron, that is correct. You do not need to publish it. You do need to post it. We have a link for the work comp audit. Darla, I did get one on Thursday. It was from a Rob. I didn't even know who it was, but I looked through it, and yes, that's what it is. You don't do the paper copy. You're going to do the work comp online. You do not need to do contractors. You don't need certificates of insurance. They don't even have that on the online form right now. And also you will need to do your send your W-3. You'll have to upload that and send that with your work comp audit. And the reason for that is our work comp reinsurance wants proof of what your payroll that you're putting in there is correct. We do understand that, or Matt does understand that if you have election judges that are going through your payroll, I'm not going to get into that whole election judge payroll thing today because we don't have time. That it's like an all-day class. They do understand that it might not be exactly the same as what you're reporting. They do understand that because you don't need to do W-2s. But other than that, again, all the trainers have the instructions on the work comp audit online. So please feel free to reach out to us. It's very simple. It's a very simple process. Matter of fact, I've already done mine for my township. So it's very, very user-friendly, very easy to do. But please, if you have any trouble, reach out. I thought there was one more thing I wanted to say, but CTAS, payroll, tax tables. You have to go to the state auditor's website for the new CTAS tables for tax tables for 2023. They are on there. If you have not gotten Chris, if you have not gotten your email for the work comp audit, please reach out to Sarah or Heather. And they'll let you know if they have gotten one to send to you or if it hasn't been sent out yet. Okay.
Thank you, Lori. Appreciate that.
Sure.
I did have a question from somebody that's a direct message. I won't say who that person's name was, but they just asked about would there be any money coming from the IIJA bill to townships? As far as what we could tell, that when we have gone through it, and we've gone through it with our NATAT colleagues, there isn't much or if any funding that would really be available for townships. I do plan on having a discussion with MnDOT later on, hopefully this week, and to see if there's anything that we can do regarding that, because there is a lot of money coming to the state of Minnesota. So if there's anything that we can do to divert some of that to the townships, I know that most of you would be very appreciative of that. So we are working on that. So if there are any other questions regarding, if you had that question, wondering if there's any money coming to you, again, as of now, we don't know. Lori, regarding money coming to us from the feds, regarding ARPA, is the next reporting deadline, is that April 30th?
Yes, end of
Okay.
April. Yep.
But I did have that on my note here, and I forgot to mention that, but I just want to confirm with you. So yeah, for those of you who are doing the reporting for your townships, April 30th is your deadline for this year's reporting. So get on that if you have any questions. Lori's your girl. So please contact her regarding that. And she'll probably divert you over to Nicole.
Yes.
So
Heather did put something in the chat. We are working on the emails right now. They are expected to go out later today for the work comp audit.
awesome.
Yes, Chris, we're still working on videos for Matt U. Just haven't gotten them up and running yet.
Yep, it's taking quite a bit. We've had some delays, some distractions in getting that. So again, which is why 2023 is free for townships, and it at least gives us time to become more veteran in our use of this. You Township's more veteran in your use of Matt U, and actually becoming more acclimated and used to using it on a continual basis. So we do hope to have some nice, good content in there throughout this year and continuing on into years to come. So that is a great question. Steve, did you have anything?
I did. First, was there anything we couldn't answer? Heather did jump on about the work comp audits. Heather's from Audit. Was there anything we needed there? But somebody said they didn't get their link yet.
So the links actually have not gone out yet. We're working on them right now. They were supposed to go out last week, but we had some townships letting us know that they wanted the emails going different places. So we put that off, and that list has gone over to Origami, and they're working on that right now. So those should be going out later this morning, early this afternoon, definitely today.
Okay. All right. What I'm going to do is I'm trying to share a screen here. If I can. I'm going to go over just a couple. They're odds and ends. These are from state auditor reports. The state auditor obviously does some things with finances with local governments, but they also review the conduct of local governments. And this is from a presentation I did some years ago, but it looks at actual cases, actual problems that came up in different townships and some cities. And we can learn from these folks because there's sometimes simple mistakes and things that we probably should know, or maybe we have thought about or we forgot about, or just because there's so much law out there, maybe you didn't know. So I'm going to share here if I can. Let's see if this works. I want the chat out of the way. Okay, and this way. Are you guys able to see the presentation?
Yep.
Yes, we can see.
Yeah.
All right, cool. So this one is a township case. This is, and I use the names. It's not to wag a finger at anybody or something, but it's that just if you want to go look at it in the state auditor's files, these are online. They're just out there. Okay, so this isn't private. It's not something hidden. These things are when it happens and when there's a report that a town's doing something wrong. Well, if it goes to the state auditor, it gets published like this if they go through review and find some problems. So that's why the name is here. It is not to ding anybody or anything like that. If you're Linwood Township, I apologize. It's not to make you feel bad. This is to help others learn from what happened. So in this case, this is a 5 supervisor board, not a 3. Okay, elected clerk and treasurer. They do what is very common in some places. They do some kind of annual event celebration, not just the annual meeting, but they do some kind of other event. In this one, they do a fundraiser and a garage sale. People donate the items to the township, but there's no records of what was donated or anything like that, or what they received. They bring in food for people to eat while they're there for the event. So I'm sure it's a very nice community event. In addition, the town owns a senior center building, so it's a community center kind of thing. They hire a coordinator, an employee, which in this case is the clerk, and that person runs the senior center with the help of an advisory board. And the Secretary of State's office shows a nonprofit company, and it's called the Linwood Senior Center Incorporated. And it has an address, and that address is the same as the senior center's address. So we know that building, that township-owned building that's operated as a senior center, has this filing that says it's a corporation. That started in about 2009, but before that it was just its own building, its own entity, an advisory board at its own accounts. It was independent of the town. Last in this one, the town, unrelated to these other things, has provided flowers for funerals of residents and cash payments to families. So the question to folks are, when you see this list of things, what do you think of? What do you see problems? I'm hoping you do see some problems. There are. What do you see? And and I'm not going to call anybody out for these things here. We're going to go through them, but there's a bunch of them in this one. And oftentimes when a township gets reported for something and there's an investigation, it's not just the one thing that is investigated. It's not just a, like when you do a financial audit, it's not just one account that they audit. They may audit everything. Well, here's the same thing. It was maybe one thing that they were reported for, but it was many things on a conduct audit that were discovered. So here's a bunch of things that come up. First, donations. Okay, it's okay for a township to take donations, but to do it, the board has to do it by a 2/3 majority. In a normal board of 3, this is simple. It's a simple majority is the same as a 66 2/3 majority. But this board, remember, is a board of 5. Well, 2/3 actually means 4 of the supervisors, and they just didn't do it at all. So it's not that anybody was against it. It's just they didn't even vote. And it's something you do by resolution. So it had to be in writing. And that writing would have said, here's what you're accepting into the township as part of its property. That and the statute's listed there for those who need it. So that was one issue that the state auditor noted. Another issue, the flowers and cash payments. You can't just give flowers to funerals or to events of residents or even town officers. That by itself, there's nothing that authorizes that because it's public money. It's a very nice thought, but you can't do it just like that. There is one statute that might allow it for a town officer, but not for people just publicly. The one that might authorize it as an officer is a recognition of service statute. That's in chapter 365.10. It's one of those powers that the voters at the annual meeting can switch on or off for you. And if it's allowed, now the board has some amount of money that the voter said you can set aside and do some kind of acknowledgement of their service. So maybe the flowers at the funeral is an acknowledgement of the service. But again, it couldn't have been used for somebody who just wasn't just a member of the public. If you want to do that, very nice thought. Just do it with your own money. Okay. The reason being, there's no public purpose in just giving money to buy flowers for funerals. Likewise, cash payments. There's no statute that allows cash payments to families in need. And that's what was going on. It was somebody had lost a job, somebody was going through hard times. The community was thoughtful and wanted to help, but they couldn't do it through the township. Okay, so it's not that these things can't be done ever. It's maybe you can't use the township to do it, right? And in this case, you can't. There's just no way to do just a cash donation through a township. There's no statute to do it. And you could argue there's no public purpose. That could be something each person could disagree with or agree with on their own. Next issue, fundraiser. There's really no statute that allows a fundraiser. That doesn't mean you can't take donations, but taking the donations to then sell them poses a question, at least, that the auditor raised of, hey, can they do this? Because they flagged that, hey, you can't do a fundraiser as a local government. Your way of raising funds are taxes, bonding or certificates of indebtedness, intergovernmental transfers, okay, donations, yes. And we talked about that statute right at the top. But other fundraisers are a suspect issue, okay? Next was the nonprofit company. They had a senior center and it was listed as a corporation. Well, there's a statute saying local governments cannot create a company. You can't create a corporation or LLC. Bless you. So this is something they did without any authorization to do it. And I'm sure they had a reason. I'm sure they had some idea of why they wanted to incorporate it. It's just that the township can't do it. Again, a private advisory board could have, okay, if it had stayed private, even if the board members participated as private members on that board. Okay, just like if they're all attend the same church and they're part of that church and the church owns property, or they're on some other local organization. But once the township accepted that building, well, that's a town building. We can't create a company to house that thing or to keep that property. That actually takes a special act of the legislature to have any government start a company, okay? So, last year, providing food at events. There's generally no authority to provide food at events unless we're going to use, again, one of those voter powers, 36510 allows for a township celebration, and it's kind of vague in its statement. Well, if the voters went to the annual meeting and said, we're going to allow a town celebration, here's the amount of money you can use. Now the town can potentially do this. In this case, the town just didn't take that step. So what I want you to take away from this are two things. Some things you can do, but the procedure matters. So they could take donations. They could do probably food at an event, but they had to go through the procedure. In one case, the town board accepting it by resolution. In the other, the voters switching that power on for the township board to go do it. Okay, that's one piece of it. The other piece of it, many things that you want to do, that you like to do, the town simply is not the vehicle to do it. So just because you're a board member and you have this authority and you control that bank account, doesn't mean you can use it for that, even if it's a nice idea. There are nice nonprofits you cannot donate to. There's not any statute to allow it. There are good causes you'd like to give to. Your town cannot do it. Okay, that has to come from somewhere else. So take those two things away from this township's troubles. When you're in doubt, call, use the resources we have online. We'll point you to them. Use your township attorney. Lots of options out there. Again, we're using Matt U. We're trying to get going as another new resource for you. Okay. All right, I will do one more. Okay. Back to fire departments. We're kind of on a fire department thing here. So these are cities in this case. In this case, they had both these cities, Delavan and Storden. And there are many cases of this type from the state auditor. And these are not unique. They both are city-owned departments. So this is like the road department. This is the administration department. This is the fire department. These are city properties. Well, they were allowed to have their own checking accounts separate from the city's accounts, separate from what the city councils were overseeing and voting on, both departments. And then in Devlin, they were taking some of that money that they had access to. Okay, and probably the chief could just write what he needed to. And he was giving that to the Fire Relief Association, the dance and steak fry, and the proceeds then from that event were put into the city accounts, but then transferred over to the Relief Association. There's a bunch of issues in these situations, okay? And it's because oftentimes it's hard to draw the lines between the fire department and the fire relief fund, and kind of just forgetting that no department can have their own money separate from the township or from the city, okay? So for those townships who have a fire department, what you should take away from this is that department cannot have their own separate fund of accounts. All the money has to go through the town board. The fire chief is not special. That person doesn't have spending authority. What we do talk about is just like a supervisor, who's the road manager. You give them a very small amount that if something comes up and you can't hold a meeting, it's not an emergency, or it's something that tire needs to be repaired. They need to, of course, fill the tanks on the trucks. Yeah, you give them that amount of money. But beyond that, they're not allowed to spend more. And if they do, that's a personal expense. Okay, so if they go buy gear that wasn't needed or that could have waited until the next meeting, well, the town may not have to pay for that. The fire chief or whoever authorized it may find they have to come up with some money or work with the vendor to get it back. So these are serious things, and the auditor calls these out each time, not only these two cities, but many others. So the other issue is the fire relief fund. Remember that the fire relief fund is a private organization run by the firefighters. These are hybrid organizations. They are in some ways private, and they are in some ways audited like public entities. Okay, there's a statute on them, but they're not part of the township. The Relief Association is separate. That money, there's a general fund and a special fund, and they have rules about what they can use them for. The issue is here, the town could not spend any town money for their dance and steak fry. Okay, that would be like no different than using town money to go support a local business for their own profit enterprise. Okay, you're not able to do that. The town maybe could allow the use of the facility because you already have it and they operate there. But that's not the same as paying for the things to hold this fundraiser. Remember that fundraiser issue that we had in the last one, it's kind of here too, at least with the town. The Fire Relief Association by itself, they can do fundraisers, okay, but they can't use town money to do it. The next issue there is they took that money and they put it into the city's own accounts. But once money touches the city's accounts, that's public funds. They can't then transfer it out back to the private relief association. So there are a number of issues here that they ran into. They just didn't draw the lines of controlling finances and separating finances where they needed to. Okay, so because of time, I'm going to stop there. There are a lot of these state auditor reports out there, and they come up with interesting issues, and many of the issues come up over and over again. So they're interesting reads. You can actually subscribe to a list where they will mail them to you, email them to you right away, and you can kind of see what other governments are doing and what they're getting caught for, and hopefully learn something from them. So, all right, I'm going to open the chat up again. Okay. Can you use township funds for meals for election judges? So I'm going to start with that one. There's more to this question. Okay. Yes, if you have employees or officers who are doing job functions and they cannot leave, or there's something that requires them to stay in a place over a meal time, then yes, you can use town money for that. Okay, it can't be contrived. So you can't say, well, the only time we can ever have a town board meeting is over lunch, and we're going to go have lunch while we have our town board meeting. That doesn't really fly. But your election judges, you are limited. We know we don't have enough election judges. They may not be able to leave to go out and get something. It may make sense for administration purposes to keep them there as part of the job. No, you can't leave, or we're going to ask you not to leave. We're going to provide you food, and then provide them something. It would only be the election judges that should be partaking in that. It shouldn't be other folks. Okay. Another part of that, are we allowed to donate funds to County Ag Society to be used towards the county fair? I believe you are. There is one in our financial document, F1000. I just don't have it open. I had it open a few minutes ago. There is to ag societies if they're putting on a county fair, but I think there's a rule related to where that county fair is located. I think it's certainly allowed if it's within your township, like the actual fair is in your township. Looking real quick here, economic. Okay. Not that one. One more thing I'm going to try writing here. County fairs, okay. Town board may appropriate money to a county agricultural society that is a member of the state agricultural society that holds a fair in the town or near the town. And the statute for this is 38.12. 38.12. So please review that. And then there's supplemental authority in 38.20. So anytime we give these, go take a look. They do change. We try to catch every change, but sometimes we don't. And there's sometimes more procedure related to this. So for example, I'm reading from our financial donations and contributions document, which would not necessarily include all the procedures related to giving money to the county ag society. That's F1000 if you want to go look at that one, and it's under county fairs. Let's see, going back here. Okay. Next one, can we use funds for recognizing retired supervisors with cake and coffee at the annual meeting? Nancy, if the voters allowed this, okay, they switched it on at a prior annual meeting, then yes, because that's a 365.10 power to do recognitions of service. And I think they have to set the amount you can spend too. And then you can do this. Now, the other option, those who appreciate them can give some money if it hasn't been done yet and you just want to recognize them. And for future years, you have the voters switch this on so it's available in the future. You can do a number of things for recognitions of service. You can do plaques, you can do all kinds of things. I am a fan of nice writing instruments because they are something I use all the time. So for example, one I just received day, actually. You can get nice commemorative things. It's not necessarily the gold watch thing of when you retire, but it can be a nice gift to remember their service by, if the voters have switched it on and allowed that much money. So those are options. Let's see. Can we give money to a person who cares for the town hall landscaping? She charges nothing. Well, you can certainly pay a person, but once you do, they become an employee. It cannot be a donation. So we're either in the box of we're paying that person for a service in exchange of goods. You cannot donate, though. We cannot do gifts outside of what I talked about a moment ago. You cannot just do gifts because they're being nice. Again, an individual or individuals may be able to put in some money and give that person an appreciation. But the township itself, if you're going to pay them for that work, it would have to be, okay, now they're an employee or they're a contractor, which has all the paperwork and tax implications that go along with it. So again, it's a nice idea, but the law just doesn't allow for that nicety, in that context. So 360, Graham posted 36510 subdivision 12 is the statute for allowing the recognition of service. So I believe that's the one he's referring to. So I think that is all of the questions.
Steve, there's one more from Elaine Santee.
Oh, I'm
An
sorry. I thought that
emergency
was
rescue
caught already.
situation. Yeah.
Okay. Emergency rescue situation or car accident that the fire department and EMS is called on. Who is the person that gets charged in multi-car accidents? I believe there's a statute that you can charge back to the person who received the service. I think it is in 366.011, what Graham had presented on. And there's a way to levy against their property anywhere in the state. The trouble being, if they're not in the state or don't own property in the state, they may be judgment proof. Okay, so it is not a perfect system, but it is a system that tries to provide care to people who need it, regardless of who they are, where they're from, where they pay taxes, or whether they own property. So, Graham, do you have something to add on that?
Yeah, it is. The standard is services received. So you can theoretically go after people who aren't located within your township. They do have to own property, though. Otherwise, otherwise the levy process is not necessarily going to work. Of course, you also are empowered to go through sort of ordinary debt collection practices, which are its own fairly large area of law. But there are ways to go after people who don't have real property. And that's something that, we might want to consider. We might want to consider throwing together materials on that, though once you're in that position, it's probably better to speak to a township attorney and see if you have mechanisms available to you to pursue that person, whether or not it'd be profitable to do so. That process can be pretty involved and can be difficult sometimes. But if you can prove that they have a bank account or something like that, you can theoretically get money out of that using certain processes. But those are just available to anybody who is owed an unsecured debt in the state of Minnesota. So
if you're working on behalf of your township, I'd strongly recommend using a professional to help collect debts. There are state and federal regulations protecting debtors, Fair Debt Collection Practices Act. There are a number of things that go into this. And if you mess it up, you or your township is on the hook. So use a professional for this. And sometimes it comes down to, is it worthwhile? Is it worth the money? And sometimes it's not. So, all right, we have got to the end of our questions. Anything left? I've successfully made everyone go to sleep. All right.
Everyone knows everything they need to know about law. It's wonderful.
I don't.
You don't. That's concerning. But I can't wait till tomorrow. I can look at that pen, Steve.
Yes.
So you don't know this, but Steve and Reno, for that matter, one of our board of directors in District 11, they are aficionados of these writing instruments, and they got me hooked into this. And they're spreading
They're called writing instruments.
What's that?
that's right. It's too dignified to be called a pen. It's a writing instrument.
Exactly.
Noted.
Life is too short to carry an ugly pen.
That's right. That is the motto. Well, thank you all for joining us. We really appreciate that on this first Township Tuesday for 2023. I wish you all a very safe, hey, it stopped snowing in Lakeville. I just noticed this. I wish you all a very safe day, and please join us again in 2 weeks and we'll talk to you then. But please register for Township Day at the Capitol, February 1st and 2nd. Lori, did you mention your training that's going on this month?
Yeah, there's training February or January, 2 days in January and 3 in February at the Met office. Yeah, we did mention that, new clerk and
You did.
treasurer.
Perfect. Yep. Check our website. It's all on there. If you have any questions or just shoot us an email, we'll help you when we can. Thank you all. Great
Pete and
day.
Deanne have their hand up.
Oh, sorry.
Right.
Pete and Deanne, go for it.
No?
You're still showing as muted there.
You're still muted. Maybe they took their hand down. Maybe they decided to take it away. Well,
May have
Pete
been
and
this
Deanne-
quick.
Oh, Pete and Deanne said that we are not sleeping. We are taking notes like crazy. Thanks. They said that in the chat. Well, thank you very much for that note. All right, guys, you have a great rest of your day, and we'll talk to you real soon. Take care.